Another Tory crosses the floor. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Going beyond the headlines.
Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
Maybe he just really likes Christmas parties. Michael Maw, a relatively unknown Conservative MP, was at the Conservative Party's annual Christmas party. Just a couple of nights ago, he even had his picture taken with Pierre Poilievre, and he was all smiles. Now that same Michael Maw is a Liberal MP. He's crossed the floor. He said he made the decision because of Prime Minister Carney's steady and practical leadership. The Liberal Party's annual Christmas party was last night, and the Prime Minister looked like someone who was unwrapping a shiny new toy as he welcomed his latest catch.
Some of you apparently came back from the dead to be Liberals here tonight. Others, like me, are new to politics. I'm not a politician. Others are new to politics. I am now. Yes, you're right. Some may have just joined our party. Some, like literally, just joined our party. So let's give a warm welcome to our newest member of the Liberal Party, Michael Maw, the MP for Union Martinville.
Michael Maw is the second MP to cross the floor from the Conservatives to the Liberals in the last few weeks. The first was Nova Scotia's Chris D'Entremont, and it means Prime Minister Carney is now just one seat short of a majority government, and he couldn't resist rubbing it in.
Chris and Michael, I mean, look at this crowd. Your family. We're all over for Christmas. You are going to have a much better time spending Christmas with us than Christmas with the cranks. We are all about Santa, not about the Grinch. And Liberals, we welcome people from every demographic. We span generations. In fact, I found out recently that I am generationally fluid. My Spotify listening age is 44.
Conservatives, as you can well imagine, are livid with losing a second MP to the Liberals so soon after losing the first. In a statement on social media, Pierre Poilievre said Michael Maw has let down the ones who elected him to fight for an affordable future, and he'll have to answer to them. And on social media, it didn't take long for recent clips of Michael Maw to spring up, bad-mouthing the Liberal government he's now part of. This was just days ago.
Because the Liberals see themselves as a player, they have always been stacking the game in their favor. They are team asset inflation. They are team rentier economy. They are team feudalism. The Liberals do not believe in productive economy that works for hardworking Canadians.
In another video, Michael Maw slams the Liberals, saying they believe in a post-nationalist Canada and that Liberals don't believe in borders.
They don't believe in Canada because they don't believe in our borders. They believe in a two-tier immigration system where citizenship by naturalization within our borders has harder requirements than citizenship by descent outside of our borders. They believe in distributing the privileges of Canadian citizenships abroad while offloading the cost and duties of citizenship to those who live coast to coast to coast. They believe that Canadians of convenience should be able to wear the Team Canada jersey without even putting time on our ice.
That's the newest Liberal MP. Once again, the person whose name keeps coming up whenever this happens is Steve McKinnon. He's an Ottawa area Liberal heavyweight. He's the government House leader. And yesterday, before this news broke, he couldn't wipe the smile off his face and hinted that Michael Maw might not be the last Conservative to walk across the aisle.
I think there's a lot of things that we're doing that on a given day, any opposition party finds a lot to support, a lot more than they'll obviously admit in public. I'd say that's particularly true of of many Conservatives who quietly tell us all the time, we appreciate what you're doing, we respect what you're doing. The feedback in our ridings is strongly supportive of the direction you're heading in. I think those people, to be clear, are in the minority in their caucus and feel very put upon by this obstruction caucus that, again, wants to prop up Mr. Poilievre as he approaches his leadership review.
As for the man who is now down 2 MPs in a matter of weeks, just weeks before he faces a leadership review in Calgary, Pierre Poilievre spoke to the media before the floor crossing news broke and was asked about another one of his MPs, Aaron Gunn. Aaron Gunn has said he's thinking about making a jump to BC politics.
I think the people in that riding and every riding want an affordable Canada with affordable food, affordable homes, on safer streets. That is a common sense Conservative agenda, and we need it both federally and provincially. As
for Mr. Ma, he was selected running as a Conservative in Markham Unionville. He won by more than 2,000 votes over the Liberal candidate in that riding. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know, and this is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow
Returns on News Radio.
With our expert in communications, crisis communications, political communications, branding, and leadership, we're going to touch on all of that today. Barry McLoughlin is the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. Barry lectures at the Shannon School of Business at Cape Breton University, and you can read Barry's Substack, listen to his podcast, and with us every Friday. How are you?
Great, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, very good. I have interviewed you a few times when you have been on a Via Rail train. Yeah. And even though you've been on the train, you've still managed to join us on Fridays. Always appreciated that. Our local news. The reason why I want to get into this with you today, Barry, our local news here in the Ottawa area is reporting that some passengers on all the passengers on an Ottawa-bound train from Toronto were stuck outside of Brockville. They were stuck on the train all night. The train left Toronto at 6 p.m. It gets stuck just outside of Brockville because another train had broken down. It doesn't make it to the Brockville rail station until 3:30 in the morning. Like 3:30 in the morning. Holy smokes. And then it doesn't get into Ottawa until noon. Leaves at 6 p.m., doesn't get into Ottawa until noon. It's like a 5-hour train ride. It takes 17 hours. And once again, all kinds of complaints about Via not giving any information to passengers, complete lack of transparency. Everyone's in the dark. And we hear this year after year after year with this company. It seems to me that Via just doesn't understand. We are in the age of instant communications. Why do you think this keeps happening at this rail service? What would you tell the people running this operation, Barry?
Well, that is a big question. I mean, there are legitimate problems facing Via. They don't own the tracks. They don't own what goes on in the tracks. And something else happens in the track. They have no control over it. That's just one of the realities of the way we've done the Via Rail thing. So I'm not even blaming them for that. But in terms of the customer, to me, everything is the customer. We did a massive communications. It's called quality communications remember the old Canadian Airlines? So we did the quality communications, customer care communications for Canadian Airlines. And one of the key themes of it was manage the moments of truth with the customer. So there are 6 moments of truth usually in any, I don't care if it's airplane or train, when they get their ticket, when they board, when their seat, their bag, ticket, food, communications in times of challenge. They don't manage the moments of truth. I've been on there enough. Those moments of truth with the customer. So you are so right. This is so different from, 10 or 20 years ago. Everybody on that has their own device. In fact, they don't have their own. They have the one on the screen in front of them. And free Wi-Fi. They promote that heavily. And we couldn't tell them within 5 to 10 minutes, update. Do we have a standby plan? I mean, we are in the wintertime here, and this could have been far more damaging and dangerous than what actually transpired. When you have that kind of weather, that kind of snow, etc. where are the hotels along the route? Let's get the cabs out. Let's get where we need to get them to those hotels, whatever it is. Somebody's got to make some decisions. And I've watched enough of this that, who's making the decision? Probably in Montreal. Okay, well, get on. What's the challenge here? What's the plan of action? Mm-hmm. And I find that when you don't have a crisis communications plan, it shows right away. I don't think they have one. I don't think they have one. If they did, they sure didn't execute it.
Yeah. I mean, you've told us in the past, in terms of a brand, okay, and I'm not saying Via is a big trusted brand in Canada. It keeps taking hits because of incidents like this. This is not the first one. But like a bad tweet or 10 bad tweets or a bad Facebook post or some kind of bad review, a bad TikTok video. What does that cost a company, Barry?
Oh, what a good question. It's phenomenally, in multiple digits with zeros attached to it of damage for every unit of the problem. That, a CEO can be fired out of a company for a tweet that was just inappropriate or a comment that was made. Yeah. And here you have, hundreds of passengers that were so put out. I mean, it's just a shocking nightmare of what occurred to them. So, to me, the brand damage, you only need, if they had one more of these this winter, look out. And here's right today, the minister, Mr. McKinnon, you played the clip of him. He was announcing, the high-speed rail. This is the next generation and vision of it. And wow, we're all going to get really, the poor guy felt bad for him because he had to really deal with this, which would have crushed that announcement. So, we do have a different vision. Yes, very costly. Yes, it's competition to the airlines, probably very necessary. And Canada, we're such a large country, it's very, very hard to make rail, price competitive on its own. 50 cents every dollar is paid by the taxpayer for every train ride you take. So it is a very expensive proposition. No easy solutions. It's part of Canada's historical, part of being Canadian, it has a romantic quality to it.
It just seems to me, Barry, and I'm just going to interrupt because we're a little tight on time. I'm just going to interrupt. It seems to me that Via should have some kind of communication, social media where it says, we are aware of the situation. This is what we're doing. This is our action plan. And you just keep a rolling update of that. This is not rocket science.
No. I mean, we actually teach holding statement. If you can't execute that holding statement, they're already pre-written. Use them and then update them.
We'll be right back. We'll talk about the communication styles of the two leaders we've talked about the most this year with Barry McLoughlin, of course, Prime Minister Carney and Pierre Poilievre. When we return, this is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
With the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants, Barry McLoughlin, with us every Friday. What have you thought about Prime Minister Carney's communication skills since he became Prime Minister? When I think back to the early days, you and I would talk about this kind of wooden and wonky, terrible French. The French has come a long way, in my opinion. It's clear he's been putting some effort into improving his French. And what about the rest of it? How is he coming across, in your opinion?
Well, I never would have said wonky, but I would say that he was always a button-down, self-contained, low-key, very dry wit, and he still has the essence of that, no question about it. However, you watch him over time, he is gaining the confidence of the office. He seems comfortable in his own skin. He's confident whether he's watching up close, watching Trump do an agonizingly painful dance to the YMCA. And, he knows how to play those very well. He does have a better, more expressed sense of humor now. I've seen him live in quite a number of situations. So I think he's come a long way. Does he have more way to go? Sure he does. I could boost him in terms of his speeches. He's got to speak to the back of the room, not the front of the room. He's got to do a number of things that I think would be truly helpful to him. But he's on the right track in terms of the communication side of things. And you can tell Canadians still respect him. He's managed their expectations very well. We didn't have instant solutions that turned out to Donald Trump and the tariffs, but Canadians realize that's kind of a pipe dream, but is he on the right track to long-term resolve these or address these things? I think he still has their confidence, which is tough to do in one of the most difficult years that we have experienced in a long time. So I have to give him strong marks for how he has conducted himself and his way of communications this year. Not perfect. We haven't had any of those in quite a while, if ever.
Right.
But I think he's on the right track.
Okay. What about Poilievre? I mean, some people are criticizing his leadership style. I'll tell you what, you watch Poilievre in the House of Commons. I mean, that is his natural habitat, and I don't think anybody does it better. That's my own opinion.
Yeah.
Just question period.
Yeah.
He's like
I
a
totally agree
shark
with
in
that.
question period.
Yeah, he is.
The rest of it, I don't
amazing.
know. I wonder if he should go back to doing rallies and making YouTube videos, stuff that goes viral. You know, he can pack them in. Yeah. He can deliver a speech. He can make a video. He's very good at that. What do you think of the year?
Well, he hasn't had a good year. He actually came surprisingly close on the election, gave them the greatest seats they've had since the Mulroney era. So that was a really a huge step forward. Of course, everybody was geared up for a rout of Trudeau, and it didn't happen, of course, and that must have been very frustrating. He was slow to react to that. He was still going on about, Justin stuff when Carney was already the leader. I mean, things like this were just kind of not on. But he's now got a very, I think it's strange what's happened. He's 20 points behind his own party. And the brand perception is so important in politics and momentum. So now he's had two crossing the floor, and now the prime minister is one seat away from a majority government locked in for at least 3.5 years. And he'll get it. Once you get that close, you'll get it. That next person walking that floor is going to be a golden gift and maybe a very happy Christmas. So if he goes into that leadership, having lost the minority status of the Liberals, that they end up becoming a majority government, that's not good for the perception either. But he now has a great, I don't mind saying, I know him well, Stephen Outhouse. I've done some work with Stephen Outhouse over the years. He's a great campaign manager, and I think things may well change under his stewardship. Shifting the gears somewhat on Pierre Poilievre is a challenge because he is great in the House of Commons. But in the end, the things that he does well, you already pointed them out. I watched him in a crowd of 2,000 people. Wow. He is amazing in that. He's amazing in his videos. He's got to go back to those and reconnect with people.
Okay. Well, next week will be our last conversation for the year, Barry. I look forward to that. Thank you for joining us today. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye. That's Barry McLoughlin from TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. Tom Korski from Blacklock's Reporter, coming up after the news on News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
He's been minding Ottawa's business all week long, all year long, as a matter of fact. Tom Korski is the managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter. Welcome back.
Well, thank you, Rob.
From you. Yeah.
My pleasure.
So, look, there's an interesting story in the local news in our area, Tom, about a Toronto to Ottawa via rail train that got stuck near Brockville. Lovely town, Brockville, but not if you're on a train out on the outskirts of town for 17 hours. That's how long it took for this train to get from Toronto to Ottawa. 17 hours, Tom. 17 hours.
What's interesting, Rob, is that...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's on the north shore of Lake Ontario. What's interesting is, anyone who's never been to Brockville, if you were on the train, you could literally step off the train, walk a little bit through the bush, and hitchhike on the Trans-Canada Highway. So it's not like you were stranded in northern Manitoba. This is a service area of many millions of people, absolutely inexplicable, and yet not unprecedented, dismal service at Via Rail.
Well, Blacklock's, I was going through your archive today because at Blacklock's, you have been covering reliability issues of Via. I mean, for at least a decade. I found stories on blacklocks.ca today, like from 2016. I mean, how bad is it there?
It's so bad that they redefined late. That was my favorite Via Rail story of all time. Their on-time performance was so just truly abysmal that they redefined late, and they said, well, from now on, if we get within 15 minutes plus or minus of the schedule, we're going to say that we're on time. How does it work in other countries? It's 10 minutes in the United States. Germany, 6 minutes. The Swiss Federal Railways on time is 3 minutes. If it's more than 3 minutes, they say the train is late. In Canada, my favorite is the Transcontinental, the Canadian that runs from Toronto to Vancouver. They are typically a day late, and I mean a 24-hour day. And
wow.
the railway has been unable to get ahead of that. By the way, they have the oldest rolling stock outside of a train museum. That's true. There are train aficionados the world over who can only experience what it's like to ride in a 1950 passenger car by taking regular service. Hope you don't get stuck at Brockville. Good luck to you.
Yeah. It is a lovely town, however, if you want to do some sightseeing. But they had a commuter train. I remember that story. I looked it up today. I mean, it's from 2019. This story. Via Rail redefines late. Okay, we're late all the time. Let's just redefine what we mean by late. We'll just move the goalposts. They had one train. It was late 173 days in a row.
Oh, and this is with no snow on the ground. Like, this is lovely spring days with the trees in bloom. Oh, sure.
But it just, in addition to that, it's the financial position of this railway. The government this year finally awoke to the desperate situation at Canada Post, which is back asking for even more money. I believe we need another $500 million, Canada Post is saying, in taxpayer dollars just to kind of keep the lights on until we can reorganize this thing. I do wonder if it will dawn on the government that something is seriously going to have to be done with Via Rail, because the losses at Via, I mean, they're in the hundreds of millions of dollars every year as well, Tom.
Oh, typically, $400 million a year is their average. And yet every year there are executives, and many of them are cabinet appointees at the top level. The executives take a bonus, and then they'll have some layoffs, and then they'll run more trains late. And these are the guys, this is the favorite part. They always said, that was, as is always the case in cases of corporate welfare, they're always tormented by a cruel web of circumstance, if, woulda, coulda, shoulda. And Via Rail has always said, if we could just have high-speed service, if taxpayers could just sink a few more billion and we could get high-speed service. And Cabinet has been chasing this fantasy for 30 years, and everyone is going to get to pay for it, including people who don't live in Brockville and could never take the train, even if it showed up on time. Anyone who thinks you're getting high-speed train, a bullet train in Canada,
no, they're announcing it. They say.
They've re-announced it 17 times.
Yeah,
oh, sure.
I know. Yeah. Well, look, it's that time of the season, and for some lucky employees, it will be Christmas bonus season. And federal government managers, let's face it, they're luckier than most. What percentage of public sector managers in the federal government will qualify for a bonus, and what do they have to do to earn that extra cash?
The average is 98%, according to Treasury Board figures. That's on the level, 98%. In other words, the only ones who don't get a bonus are the ones who are on permanent disability, didn't show up for work, or presumably are in jail or under criminal indictment. In other words, everybody, even if you were in the corner eating glue, everybody in management who showed up as a federal public service manager gets a bonus in any given year. You can't lose.
Yeah. Like, if you're not getting the bonus, you have to wonder, what is wrong with me? Like, what have I done wrong?
Oh, and Rob, we just talked Via Rail. Like, during the pandemic lockdowns, they paid their managers $10,000 bonuses. And I mean, this is not a few lucky executives. 650 managers, that's everybody, got the equivalent of a $10,000 bonus in the same year they laid off a quarter of their employees. It's the life of Riley.
Sure is. Now, look, to be fair, $150,000 a year doesn't go as far as it used to, but how many, because people have been digging in, how many government workers are making these days $150,000 a year?
This is the multi-billion-dollar executive group club, they're called, executive group. And we are now up to over 14,270, according to new figures tabled in the House of Commons. So think about this. Think of an organization that has 14,000 executives. I mean, just off the Chinese Army, Google, no. It's the Government of Canada. 14,270. Year over year, the six-figure club went up 74%. It just gets better, Rob.
Life is good. That's just salary, right, Tom? That's just salary.
We're not including the bonus.
Yeah, not including bonus, not including benefits, not including the pension at the end of the rainbow. Yeah, it's all very good. Okay.
It's good.
When we come back, travel directives, travel spending, going to homeless conferences to be inspired, all in the news this week from Blacklock's reporter Tom Korski's been watching it all for us. He'll bring us right up to date. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues
On News Radio.
Here with Tom Korski from Blacklock's reporter. Let's think back to, well, we won't call them the good old days. We'll just call them the old days. When Chrystia Freeland was the Minister of Finance and was saying, we're gonna find some savings around here. We're gonna cut travel by government agencies. We're gonna cut it by 15%. Okay. That will be the fiscally responsible thing to do. Hard to disagree. Rein in travel spending. Okay, let's find some internal savings in government. How'd that work out?
Not so well. The promise was a 15% cut to show we're fiscally responsible, I quote then Finance Minister Freeland accurately. And only now we see data that shows the vast majority of federal agencies and departments subject to that directive spent more, not less, on travel. My favorite was the agencies who wrote that they were cutting travel spending, even as they increased travel spending. Federal Bridge Corporation, they wrote MPs, they said, we're rigorously following corporate policy on travel spending, and then increased spending 26%. There's an interesting takeaway here, Rob. You know this iron law of Ottawa that says haircuts don't work. What does that mean? When any federal government says, we're going to cut spending, but you won't feel a thing, we're going to take off a little bit here and a little bit there, it never works. The way you save money in Ottawa is to do what Paul Martin, finance minister in 1995, did, is you go to Canadian National Railways and say, why are we in the railway business? Sell this railway, and he did. Or you go to the Department of Consumer Affairs and say, we're out of Consumer Affairs now. We shut down the entire department. Tears, layoffs, 45,000 job cuts.
Oh,
no
yes.
haircuts.
Yes.
No haircuts.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to love some of it. Yeah. Federal Bridge Corporation claimed it was rigorously following corporate policy. Travel spending climbed 26%. The Veterans Review and Appeal Board lowered travel costs by conducting more hearings online. Travel increased. How much? 66%. The Copyright Board, like we even have such a thing. The Copyright Board budget for travel doubled. They doubled at the Copyright Board. What the heck is the Copyright Board?
Exactly. Pick up a phone.
Right.
Exactly.
Great Lakes Pilotage Authority. Okay, I suppose you need one of those. At least it admitted, no, we're not even going to follow the rules.
I love those.
Right?
Those were my favorites.
No, we're not following this. Travel spending increased 73%. Well, at least you have to appreciate the honesty. And I love this quote from Yves Giroux, the former parliamentary budget officer. With successive governments having announced reductions in travel expenditures, if we followed all those commitments, the Ottawa airport would be closed by now. It's still open. Yeah, amen to you, brother. Yeah. Well, we know at least one of those junkets was for a bunch of federal government managers to take a junket and find inspiration about the homeless situation in the country. Tom, tell us about that.
Housing department managers, 47 of them, they spent $90,000 to go to a conference on homelessness in Montreal. And they were asked why, and they said, well, it is to raise awareness. But they said, we also seek inspiration, their word, not mine, inspiration on homelessness. My favorite part was, aside from the grotesque cost, $97,500 to send 47 managers from Ottawa to Montreal. I've never flown from Ottawa to Montreal. It's quite a short drive. But there were 9 executives who decided to fly just because they're that important. But yet they wanted inspiration to fly from Ottawa to Montreal. I understand it's about a 20-minute flight. But when John Q. Sucker taxpayers paying for it, as you can see, cost is no option.
Yeah, 97,503 to send 47 managers, 16 fewer than asked to attend. So more wanted to go, 47, because you couldn't send just one, right, from the Department of Housing to the conference. No, you have to send 47. $33,600 on hotels. This was a 2-day conference, and they racked up almost $9,000 in meals at restaurants. Why the heck not? Go have some steak frites in Montreal. It's a very, very great city. Finally, one of the big announcements for Mr. Carney shortly after becoming prime minister was to make good on an election promise to do something about the tolls. I've paid that toll many times to get off of the island. They make you pay when you leave, Tom. It's not the cover charge to get onto the island from New Brunswick to Prince Edward Island on the Confederation Bridge. So they cut the tolls, but that's going to be very good for French investors in France. Tell us about that.
Many people are unaware. Taxpayers got stuck with the bill to construct that bridge, cost $1 billion, and then Cabinet leased it to a private operator, which has been taken over through successive stock buys by now a French multinational. And there are people in France as we speak who are cashing those dividend checks because when the Prime Minister cut the toll, he guaranteed income we see from budget office figures. A minimum transfer from taxpayers, $44 million a year, Rob. They literally can't lose. They say the margin on that bridge is 54%. Can you believe that?
It's a lot better than being in the grocery store business, I'll tell you that. $44 million a year, guaranteed. Okay. Look, great stuff this week, Tom Korski. Love the material. I encourage people to subscribe to Blacklock's Reporter. I find the information is invaluable. I renewed my subscription today, as a matter of fact, re-upped for another year. And great work by you and the team as usual, and we'll speak to you next week.
Thank you kindly, Rob. You bet.
Yeah. Tom Korski from Blacklock's. This is News Radio.
You have questions
Now you know with Rob Snow has the answers.
on News Radio.
If you're ever looking for a podcast of this show, now you know with Rob Snow, there is a mobile app that will help you hear our show when you want to. Listen live, listen to the podcast. It's called the Seeker app. That's Seeker, spelled S-E-E-K-R. And it has all kinds of exclusive audio that you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports. You can download Seeker for iOS or Android. That's Seeker, spelled S-E-E-K-R. And now you know with Rob Snow is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Well, I suspect the lottery kiosks of the nation will be doing a brisk business today because there is a record-tying Lotto Max jackpot up for grabs tonight. $80 million. $80 million. And 14 prizes of $1 million each. I'm sure that would do most people just fine. But that ties the record, $80 million for the biggest lottery jackpot in Canadian history. We had one $80 million Lotto Max jackpot earlier this year. A young man in Surrey, British Columbia, took home $80 million. And tomorrow night, it is the 649 draw, the gold ball jackpot, $42 million. Along with the traditional 649 draw worth $5 million. Again, that draw is tomorrow. Football, Curtis. You know, I do love some football. And I'll even watch U.S. college football. And the bowl season starts this weekend. We're going to be flooded with college football games, bowl games over the next 3 weeks or so. So this weekend all gets going with the minor bowl games like the Celebration Bowl, South Carolina State, and Prairie View A&M, the L.A. Bowl, which doesn't feature any teams from L.A., the Washington Huskies, and the Boise State Broncos. It's called the L.A. Bowl because they play it in Inglewood, California. But you also have the traditional Army-Navy game, 126th meeting of those two rivals. That's being played at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. The winner claims the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, and I wouldn't be surprised if President Trump showed up at that one. I believe Navy is the heavy favorite this year. In the National Football League, Week 15 of the regular season kicked off last night with an upset. The Falcons getting by the Bucks with a last-second field goal. Final score 29-28. Marquee matchups for Sunday. Bills and Patriots. That's going to be a good game. Chargers and Chiefs, if you're enjoying the demise of the Chiefs this season, I sure am. Lions and Rams and Packers and Broncos in the late game Sunday. Vikings and Cowboys. And in the National Hockey League, the NHL regular season, now more than a third of the way through. All of the teams have played at least 30 games now. Gosh, what a difference a week and a half can make in the NHL standings. A week ago, the Ottawa Senators were red hot, and they were the only Canadian club in contention for a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. Now they've gone cold. They did win last night over Columbus, but gosh, from a playoff spot to tied for second last in the Eastern Conference. That's how tight things are in the East. In fact, in the East right now, no Canadian team would make the playoffs if the playoffs started today. Not a single Canadian team. In the West, it's not much better. Although the Oilers have turned things around. They've climbed back into contention. They swung a deal with Pittsburgh today. But the Oilers got off to a terrible start. Now they're kind of holding their own. While they have the wild card spot in the West, the first wild card spot in the West, and they're the only Canadian team that can say that. Winnipeg, Calgary, Vancouver would all miss the playoffs if the playoffs started today, although, at least Calgary's not the worst team in the league anymore. That record belongs to the Vancouver Canucks these days. Talkback. Friday, free-for-all Talkback. Pick a topic, we'll roll with it right after the news here on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today's the Friday free-for-all. Our favorite day of the week around here. We don't come up with the topics on Friday. We leave that job up to you. So what's on your mind? What is on your mind? What do you want to talk about? If you want to talk about something that's been in the news, there's always news. Lots of news this week. Even some stories that were big, but didn't make it as big as they should have been. If you want to talk about something that you think should be in the news, you just feel free to raise it here, whatever it happens to be. It can be serious. It can be not so serious. It's Friday. We have a phone line for you. All of our phone lines are open right now. As a matter of fact, 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. And if you've never called before, just mention that, and we'll make your call a priority. I mean, the big political news is the floor crossing. If you want to start there, another MP has crossed the floor from the Conservatives to the Liberals. This is the second Conservative MP who has decided the grass is greener on the other side. I think one of the questions has to be today, why is Pierre Poilievre losing MPs? You may have some thoughts on that. Why is Pierre Poilievre losing MPs? Michael Maw, the latest to join the Liberals. I have to admit, I never heard of the guy. He's only been an MP since April. He was just elected in the April election as a Conservative, rather handily in that riding. And I guess now he's saying, just kidding, I'm really a Liberal. And you had earlier Chris Doncherma from Nova Scotia, down Yarmouth Way in Nova Scotia. I mean, lifelong Conservative, social Conservative, pro-life Conservative, going back all the way back to his days in Nova Scotia politics. And he switched teams and joined the Liberals a few weeks ago. You have this other guy from Edmonton, Genereux. He's decided he just doesn't want to be in politics at all anymore. That's what he's saying anyway. But there were all kinds of rumors that he was going to cross the floor. And then he said, no, I'm just leaving. And now this MP, Michael Maw, would rather be on Team Carney than Team Poilievre. What do you think is going on? Why do you think that's the case? And there's Prime Minister Carney, just one seat closer, just one more turncoat MP away from having a majority government. And for Poilievre, I mean, it's not great timing. The news media will now be flooded with many more stories about how MPs don't like Poilievre. MPs don't like his leadership style, how he's losing his grip on the leadership of the Conservative Party. Oh, my goodness, what is this going to mean for his leadership review in late January in Calgary? All of that stuff. Not a great way to end the year. And it wasn't really a great year for Poilievre anyway. Why do you think this keeps happening? What do you think is going on? 1-833-668-2577. One thing we can talk about. We can talk about the weather if you want to, specifically really, really cold weather. It has been really, really cold around here lately. Again, not far from the Ottawa area around here. And a few days this week with the wind chill, felt close to minus 30. It was so cold that even my dog didn't want to go outside. I had to force him to go outside to do his business. And he's the kind of dog that usually never wants to come inside. In Nova Scotia, it hasn't really been that cold yet. In fact, I was looking at the long-range weather forecast. This next week, it could go up to +7 in Nova Scotia. But in Calgary, a little on the chilly side there, Curtis, in Calgary. Hey, last time I looked, it was minus 21.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
It's 17
wind,
degrees in this room right now. I don't know who's not turning on the heat.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Minus 21. Wind makes it feel like minus 31. Now, look, I have never lived through an Alberta winter. I've lived through lots of Ontario winters. I've lived through lots of Nova Scotia winters. I know what they're all about. My wife lived in Alberta for a number of years. She swears that minus 20 here in the Ottawa area, in this part of the country, that minus 20 here feels a lot colder than minus 20 in Alberta. She could handle minus 20 in Alberta. Is there really anything to that? I hear that all the time. Oh, it's a dry cold. Oh, it's a dry cold. A dry cold. I don't know. Minus 20 is kind of minus 20 to me. I much prefer plus 20. I would love to hear from some people who have lived through winter in different parts of the country. Winter in Eastern Canada. Winter in Western Canada. Does minus 20 really feel different in different parts of the country, or is minus 20 just too darn cold no matter where you live? 1-833-668-2577. And just another political story for you, okay? Doug Ford, what a hardworking guy this is. Hey, Doug Ford, what do you think about what Doug Ford's government is doing? Doug Ford and his government, they're not just going to take a Christmas break. Doug Ford is going into hibernation. Okay, he's going into hibernation. He's finding a den somewhere in the Muskokas, and he's going into hibernation. He might come out and go skidooing every now and then. I mean, it's out and out hibernation. Now, in Ontario, traditionally, like going back decades now, when the Ontario legislature would break for Christmas, it would come back in the second half of February, right after the Family Day long weekend, which is February 17th. Of next year. But now, we just learned about this yesterday. The Ontario legislature is not coming back until March 23rd. March 23rd. Okay, they're breaking now, and they won't be back for 102 days. 102-day winter break. After the legislature was only in session for 51 days all year. 51 days, and then they're going to take 102 break from that sweatshop called Queen's Park. What does that say about accountability, respect for democracy, respect for institutions, respect for taxpayers, and the money we pay these MPPs and the premier? I don't like it. Just like I didn't like when the Nova Scotia legislature sat for 8 days this fall. The icing on the cake is that Premier Ford is ordering all kinds of Ontario government workers back to the office full time. Oh, the pandemic is over. You need to be back in the office 5 days a week. He says that all the time. We need you back in the office 5 days a week. But he doesn't have to show up in the legislature for another 3.5 months after a grueling 51 days of lawmaking all this year. Head-shaking hypocrisy. Premier Ford. 1-833-668-2577. Friday free for all Talkback. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let's go to Peter in Nova Scotia up first. Friday Free for All Talkback. Hi, Peter.
Hi, how are you?
Very good, Peter. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
That's good.
Wanted
What's
to
on
talk
your
a little bit about your comments about federal politics and why the floor crossings might be happening.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah. I'm old enough to remember the existence of the Progressive Conservative Party in Canada, and I think the political spectrum that we had back in those days, I think, represented pretty well the way that most Canadians feel about their government and want their government to look like. And the Conservative Party, ever since Stephen Harper was voted out of office, it seems to me has been going further and further towards this sort of snarky, name-calling, single-syllable slogan kind of politicking. And I really don't think that's what most people are looking for in their government. And it was easy enough for Poilievre to survive when Justin Trudeau was his opponent. But now that there's an actual adult in the room in Carney, I think that's the reason for the floor crossings, simply put.
Okay. So when Mark Carney stands up and gives a speech and says, "Oh, you're going to love being part of the Liberal Party because you're not part of the cranks, and we're Santa and they're the Grinch," you think that's a sign of what? Maturity?
Well, I mean, I know that I would have phrased it that way, and we all have our.
But he did, though.
Yeah,
but he did.
No, I get that, and so that we all have our moments, and that wasn't one of his finest. But I do think, I guess my point is, although I have voted Liberal more often than Conservative in the last couple of decades, I honestly, sincerely hope that the Conservative Party takes this as, not a wake-up call, but an opportunity to sit back, examine where the party's going, and maybe rethink what they're looking for in a leader. Because I honestly believe that this country is stronger when we have three strong leaders or more leading the political parties, and we haven't had that for a while.
Right, but it's snarky. You don't like the snark.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't, and I don't think most Canadians do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Fair enough. Let's go to Eric is in Halifax today. Hi, Eric.
Hey, how you doing this afternoon, Rob?
Yeah, I'm good, Eric. How are you?
A little under the weather, but I'm hanging in there.
All right, you hang in there.
Yeah, it's, I like Doug Ford. I like the guts
You like
he
people
has
who don't show up for work? You like people who don't show up for work?
No, I don't like that at all. But I just like what he says half the time. Like he's not scared to fire out stuff that normally other people wouldn't say. So anyway, I like Doug Ford. As far as the football goes, in the AFC, I'm under the understanding, and I follow sports very, very closely. To me, the Patriots are a Cinderella team. Now, I said to Curtis, I thought that one time that the Patriots might have brought back Brady, but when I found out they had a rookie quarterback, I had to change my mind. In that division, you got the Broncos. I'm scared of the Broncos. I was talking to CBS there a couple of weeks ago, and they said, the Broncos are winning by, a couple of points. Well, we all forget that the Kansas City Chiefs won the last couple of years. They won by fewer 3 or 4 points. Right. So it can't be done. Yeah. And over in the NFC, you got two teams that could make a lot of noise, and they come out of the West Division, and that's the Rams and the Seahawks. I think those two guys can make a little bit of noise. And in the college football, because I follow that too, I know the Indiana and the Ohio States are the cream of the crop. But there's a team out there in the Sun Belt Division, and they scare me. They got a 12-1 record. Nobody's ever heard of them. They're called the James Madison team.
Yeah, James Madison,
They can make a little bit of noise, but It's going to be hard to upset or take over from Indiana and the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about all that.
I still think Ohio State. I still think Ohio State is the team to beat. Georgia's looking Georgia looks really good too. To me, Georgia.
Oh yeah, the Bulldogs are always there.
They're always good.
I mean, like I say, don't be surprised if this Madison team makes a little bit of noise. They're not all that bad. They got a 12-1 record, so they're not all that bad.
Oh no, yeah. I watched their game last week. Yeah, very good. Thank you, Eric. Look, feel well, feel better. Rooting for you. Love the call. Be right back. Talkback. From politics to sports, we can go anywhere you want to go today. It's the Friday Free-for-All Talkback, after all, on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Friday Free-for-All, High River, Alberta. Ross is up next. Hi, Ross.
Hi, Rob. It's nice
what's on your mind?
Again. I called late winter, early spring about our friends south of the border. I could talk sports all day long, too, but that's not the reason of my call. I said back then that Putin played Trump like a puppet, and I think everything that's gone on since then has proven it. Trump talks about making peace and everything else, but every time he talks to Putin, it goes well, but nothing happens. My problem is, if you remember back when Prime Minister Carney and Trump met earlier this winter talking about the tariffs and everything, Carney said Canada will never be taken. And Trump piped up and said, never say never. I don't know if you remember that or not. But I happen
really
to
recall it going that way. I don't really recall it going that way. What I do remember from one of their exchanges is Trump started going on about, 51st state and this imaginary line and and Mr. Carney answering a question said, some places aren't for sale. And then he kind of turned to Trump and he said, like this place, the White House, it's not for sale. And on behalf of, Canadians just winning an election to represent Canadians, I can tell you, on behalf of Canadians, Canada's not for sale. That's what I remember.
I remember that too, but there was another one where he did say Canada will never be taken. I don't know if it was in front of Trump or on a phone call, but Trump said never say never. And then yesterday when I was channel flipping, I watch a lot of American news, and they had a quote on there from Tucker Carlson. And his statement was, the only safe ally for the U.S. this time and present political situation is Russia. And that just made my skin crawl. I don't like Trump and his policies, and especially the piracy on that tanker the other day. That just scares the heck out of me. But it's just food for thought, all the things that have been going on. And then Carlson comes out and says that. But
well, I don't know. I don't have much time for Tucker Carlson. I don't pay attention to anything that guy says. So.
That's right. I mean, the whole political situation right now is so far out of control. I worry about my grandkids and my great-grandkids.
You really do? Okay.
Yep. But I just wanted to pass on that thought. I don't know if anybody heard what he said yesterday, but it just made my skin crawl.
Okay, well, it's out there for public consumption. I didn't hear it, so if somebody else wants to weigh in that, they by all means, it's Friday. Why don't we stop here? I don't want to give somebody just 30 seconds. I hate to do that. I'd give you a little bit more time than that. Last talkback of the week, after all. So, we'll stop here, pick things up on the other side. A few stories that have been in the news this week. It should be really bigger news than they are. I would love to hear from our callers in Nova Scotia what they think about Houston and the pot shops on reserves. That is another interesting story that's been unfolding this week. Premier Houston has really angered First Nations in Nova Scotia because the premier wants to close all the pot shops on reserves. He says it's all illegal pot. And you have many chiefs are basically saying, this is our land, and it's all well and good what you think, Mr. Premier, but you're not going to tell us what to do in our land. It could be a very volatile situation. I'd be interested to see what happens with it. And Premier Houston made some remarks yesterday about it. Wants the RCMP to start going in there and closing pot shops down on First Nations reserves. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
I just want to throw this one story into the mix today. It's about Premier Houston. He's really angered some First Nations in Nova Scotia because he wants to close pot shops on reserves. He says it's all illegal pot. He says the only place you're allowed to sell pot in Nova Scotia is through the Nova Scotia Liquor Commission. That's the way it's supposed to work in Nova Scotia. And what is happening on these reserves is illegal. And in response, one of the First Nations said the Premier can't come onto our territory, and if he does, we're going to hit him with a fine of $50,000. He better not come onto our territory, which the Premier's office seemed to take as a not-so-veiled threat. But Premier Houston had a media availability yesterday, and he was asked about this. Let's roll the tape here. It's just a couple of minutes here. Roll the tape.
We have great respect for all Nova Scotians, certainly great respect for First Nations communities. And I have relationships with many of the chiefs that are, we talk to them quite a bit.
So are you talking to them enough, sir?
Well, here's what I would say to that, because you're hearing from one or two, right?
From Andrea Paul is on record that your government does not speak enough with the chiefs.
Sure.
Terry Paul is on record that your government does not speak enough with the chiefs. Michelle Glasgow is on record. Sid Peters is on record. I can go through all 13 of them for you if you'd like, sir.
Carry on, because I don't think, I talk to them myself, right? It's a group of people. They don't all agree.
Something different than, why are they saying something different publicly than what they're saying to you?
I'm just saying to you, it's a group of, the chiefs, there's 13 chiefs. They don't always agree on everything. 14, I guess, I guess there's a regional one, maybe, but they don't always agree on everything. So what you asked me if the government is doing enough to consult, and I would say we consult frequently we certainly meet our obligations and exceed them. And if you say, can we do more? Probably in some situations, but sometimes government just has to act too. And in this case right now, we're talking about the sale of illegal cannabis. That's having a massive impact on communities. And we're just saying, hey, let's treat weed like we treat booze. Why would we do that, right? So I don't want to have a discussion about it, any discussion about the number of excuses for why this should be allowed to continue, or who.
Excuses.
No, I don't want to have that discussion. And some people may raise their voice and say,
sir, respectfully, no one's suggesting that.
No, I'm just speaking in general terms. So, and some people might say, it's okay. I don't think it's okay, right? And so we don't think it's okay. So we're hoping there's action.
Yeah, really interesting comments from the Premier of Nova Scotia and the questions. First Nations are selling illegal pot in Nova Scotia, and the Premier doesn't sound as though he wants to tolerate it anymore. He wants the RCMP to do something about it. Does he have a point? The Premier is saying we don't know where this pot comes from. He claims some of it has been found to be laced with fentanyl. He was certainly adamant there's a criminal element involved here, and with that comes more than just illegal pot. You have human trafficking, money laundering, and he says, yeah, pot is legal in Nova Scotia, but only if you buy it from the government-owned liquor store. And what this amounts to is a massive illegal operation, and he wants something done about it. Some of the chiefs seem to be saying this is our land, and the Premier of Nova Scotia is not going to tell us what we can do in our land. I'm telling you, it's a story to watch. You hear stories like that, and you're old enough. These stories can become powder kegs, okay? You don't know what's going to happen if you light a fuse, and you get things like Oka or Caledonia. We'll see what happens with that one. Sam in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. Sam, up next. Thanks for waiting, Sam.
Yeah, no worries. So I actually I called because I wanted to complain about the Nova Scotia government for a different reason. But this thing that you bring up with the pot shops, I mean, to me personally, it's a little bit of a ridiculous thing, a bit of a ridiculous hill for the government and the premier to try and stand on. I mean,
okay,
I don't see how he could possibly think this would be good for his public image. I mean, this is Nova Scotia. I mean, I'd say everybody I know who smokes weed, I don't smoke weed, but everybody I know who smokes weed or vapes or does any of that sort of thing, they go to the reserves to buy it. I mean, does that make it okay? Maybe not, but should we be, should the premier care enough to get out in public?
Well, I think what he's saying is when people are doing that, and by the way, the cannabis consumption data, because it's tracked by Statistics Canada, which releases a report every now and then. I don't know if this is something to be proud of, but people in Nova Scotia, in percentage terms, smoke the most pot. I know the people in BC have the reputation of being the stoners, but Nova Scotia smoke the most pot as a percentage of the population. But what the premier is saying is, okay, you're going to the reserve and you're buying your pot for whatever reason. It's better, it's stronger, it's cheaper, whatever. You are contributing to organized crime. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, he's probably right. Just like, the ads you see on TV are probably right about, reserve cigarettes or unstamped cigarettes also contributing to organized crime, but most people just don't care.
Yeah. Okay.
And Tim Houston, I mean, he's got a pretty bad relationship with the Indigenous community here in Nova Scotia. I don't know if you're familiar with this story, but in his last sitting, I think it was fall, where they had the almost record-breakingly short legislative session, they passed yet another omnibus bill. Again, not really having a lot of respect for the democratic process, but one of the aspects to this bill was to make illegal blockades of logging roads on Crown lands, because
that's right.
There's a lot of Indigenous groups in Nova Scotia right now trying to protest the clear cutting of Crown lands and older growth forests. So he's he's just doing a terrible job managing the relations with the Indigenous community here in Nova Scotia. And he's doing a bad job in lots of other ways too, but yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Sam. Good to fit you in today. Glad we could take your call, but we will have to stop here. I wanted to fit that one in. That is a story to watch. Houston and the First Nations in a battle over pot. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Karen in Calgary is up next on Talkback. Hi, Karen.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
Yeah, very good, Karen. What's on your mind?
Just wondering, with all of these people crossing the floor, I think it's all planned. I think that Mr. Carney is planning. Obviously, he wants a majority to whip through whatever he can get. But my thought is, this is all a plan to make Pierre look bad. Constantly makes him look bad. Why? Because he's scared of him. He's afraid of him. And if Mr. Snake Oil Salesman would like to pay taxes in Canada, I would love to see that. I would love to see the guy's tax return. Didn't Donald Trump publish his tax return? Yes.
Okay. I don't know anything about that, but
anyway,
whatever.
Also with the
no, but I do agree with you. I mean, I do agree with you to a certain extent. Of course, but this is politics. If you want a friend in politics, get a dog. You're supposed to try and make your opponent look bad, look weak, look as though they're not up for the job. And I think if the Conservatives were that close to, say, getting a majority government, they'd be up to the same kind of thing. They'd be tempting people over with promises of projects in their ridings or the potential for a cabinet post or whatever the case might be. This is just politics as usual as far as I'm concerned. There is a growing belief in Ottawa that there's probably at least one more that's ready to cross, and they're going to announce it when the convention begins, the leadership convention begins for Poilievre in Calgary, just to throw a wrench into that whole thing.
Well, isn't that sad? Mr. I don't pay taxes in Canada is trying to, again, usurp the system in democracy. But
yeah, I don't know. You keep coming back to that. He doesn't pay taxes in Canada. I don't know. I can't speak to that. I don't know. I haven't seen Mark Carney's tax return. I don't know what taxes he pays in Canada. No. I don't think you know either, Karen. So I'm going to wrap it up there for today. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, but you've already reached the conclusion that he doesn't. And we don't know. Mike in Dartmouth. Mike, up next in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Hi, Mike.
How you today, buddy?
Yeah, very good, Mike. Good to hear from you. What's on your mind?
Well, I agree with Tim Houston. I'm a fan of what he's doing. I think it's the right move. I think that, stuff like this has been overlooked for way too long. Nobody else can do it. If you and I opened a shack, it'd be shut down in a half hour and we'd be arrested. We're Canadian citizens just like they are, or if they want to be.
Right.
It's you get back into the treaties and stuff like that, and I wasn't around in 1725, but I don't think there was any native people or making money off of casinos and selling dope. And I don't believe, from what I've heard and the little that I've read, there's nowhere in the treaty that they have the right to do it. Now, I want to add one little thing. I did hear, I don't know if you heard this, but I heard a story today on the radio that there was some issue with possible fentanyl in some of the dope they were selling.
Well, that's what he's claiming, that they've tested some of this reserve weed and they found fentanyl in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's his claim.
But,
right. Yeah.
Yeah, but aside from that, like I said, I just think, this has gone on far too long, and one person or one culture or one group of people in Canada should not be able to do something that nobody else can do. I think that's straight across the board. There's laws that have been made to address one person's group, and the others can't do it. And I think we stand up and say, I'm still confused on the whole "we own Canada" thing. I don't understand that. I don't know where.
Right. But for you, and it's a valid point that you make. If you and I opened up a pot shop, they come after us pretty quick, and the premier is saying this is black market pot. This is not how we sell it in Nova Scotia, and they have to shut down, and he wants the RCMP to do it. We'll see what comes of it. As I say, it could turn into a very volatile situation. That's what I'll be watching for. What if the RCMP move into some of these places and start closing some of these places down? What's going to come of that? What's going to be the blowback for that? If that actually ever comes to pass, picture it. It's not a pretty picture. 1-833-668-2577. Friday free for all Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Brian in Calgary up next on Talkback. Hi, Brian.
Yeah. Hi, Rob. How you doing?
Yeah, very good, Brian. Thank you. What's on your mind?
Just two comments, one on each of the topics of the day. The first one is for MPs crossing on the floor. I know this is never going to happen, but it would be nice in a realistic world if you cross the floor that, a by-election should be called within 6 months, just because, all the people who voted for him, they're not going to be happy with him changing, changing parties. Ma, for example, is a first-year MP. So the question I would ask is, what was he offered to cross the floor? Because he doesn't qualify for a pension for 6 years, and he's certainly not going to be reelected in the same riding, which was a conservative riding. And I think a pretty strong conservative riding.
Well, that one's kind of a bellwether. Markham Unionville. It's been liberal. It's been conservative before, kind of.
Okay. Anyway,
it goes it goes where the momentum is. When the Liberals win the election, it kind of goes liberal. When the Conservatives are winning, it goes conservative. That kind of thing. It kind of bucked that trend in the last election, though.
Yeah. So it smells funny. I can't see a newly elected MP switching parties without having something offered to them, guaranteed a pension or something like that. And to me, it's like you're buying an MP. That's what it smells like anyway. Having said that, I got to give I'll give kudos to Carney for his memorandum and getting rid of Gilly Boo. Because that's
right. Okay.
That's probably the best thing for what you have. I think is he's an economist or more of an economist, and I'll give him credit for that. And I hope that that's the avenue that he follows. And I think if anything, that's 1,000% improvement over Trudeau and what we had, where the economy was just ignored and debt piled up deeper and deeper. Now, debt's still piling up, but like I say, at least the economy means something now. And so seeing Gillibo out of cabinet is, I think, really important. Then the last comment I was going to make about the premier in Nova Scotia. It's about. To me, it is sort of about enforcing the laws. Now, I don't have a problem with the First Nations not, charging taxes or federal taxes aren't being charged and have them do things like that. But if there was a murder committed on a reserve, the RCMP are still going to investigate. He's still going to go into convicted. He's still, Canadian courts. He's still going to go to jail. Like I say, if it's a regulated pot, then, is it safe? Is it not safe? How do you know unless it's regulated? So that would be my bigger worry. But like I say, there's nowhere, again, that I can see that, you can call it sovereign territory or whatever they want. I've read treaties 6, 7, and 8. I know what they say. And certainly you can't ignore the laws of Canada because if somebody was staying on reserve.
All right. Okay. You've had your say on the Friday Free for All Talkback, and I thank you for participating in the show today. Not happy with the floor crossing and the way floor crossings generally happen. Happy to see the behind of Stephen Guilbeault. I don't think he. That's it for hour number 1 of the Friday Free for All Talkback. It's flying by today. There's so much that's in the news. A couple of more stories that I can run by you. But if you have something that you want to bring it up here. That's why we do the Friday Free for All Talkback to end the week. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback, Friday Free for All Talkback. So we'll follow your lead today at 1-833-668-2577. Christy in Calgary up next. Hi, Christy.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome. What's on your mind?
Oh, I just want to say that, I'm really disillusioned and kind of disappointed with our government right now. I find it frustrating, and I'm born and raised Albertan, and I remember Ralph Klein. I used to be quite a, big conservative, and I just find that our government's really, all the acts they just passed and using the notwithstanding clause.
If I could, are you're talking about the the government of Premier Smith in Alberta. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay, just so we're clear. Okay.
You know, she's leading a government, and I think it's just gone a little bit too right wing, too extremist. And you know, we have a fringe group in Alberta that tends to, you know, be very vocal. You know, want to leave Canada, and they've done polls. Most people don't want to leave the pension plan with Canada. They don't want to, you know, leave the RCMP and have our own police force. Yet she just decides to, again, use notwithstanding clauses and pass all these laws and bills. And I think it's just really frustrating. And I think, you know, I wish she would wake up. There's 23 recalls for MLAs in Alberta, including her. Is that not a wake-up call?
Well, it depends on how, I mean, is that organic opposition to the government, or is that organized opposition to the government from special interest groups, like union leaders, for example?
The one that I know is directly involved in my district or my region is not. My own MLA that's being recalled. It's from a high school principal. And so there's no, and he has nothing to do with union leadership or anything like that. It's just the people who, I mean, you have teachers in this province who voted 98% to, you know, not take the deal. And of course, the notwithstanding clause was used. And did the kids need to get back to school? Sure. But just took away all their bargaining rights.
Sure,
so and really
but you know, the notwithstanding clause is there because the ultimate accountability lies. Like, I'm not opposed to the use of the notwithstanding clause. I want to be right up front with you. I'm not opposed to the use of the notwithstanding clause. It's there because the ultimate responsibility lies with your elected representatives. And if you want to punish Premier Smith at the ballot box in the next election, or move to recall Premier Smith through the recall mechanism that's available to you because of her decision to use the notwithstanding clause, by all means, because the ultimate responsibility for making decisions in government lies with the representatives that we elect to send to these legislatures and parliaments. That's my opinion on it. Yeah.
Oh, I do. But I don't think that what they are doing now is what they had put forward in when they were trying to form this government or get reelected. So I think that's where the disconnect is. Because again, they're just, you know, the problem is that I think they're going and supporting more serious right wing and the fringe minority in Alberta with things like, you know, divisive conversations, leaving the pension plan, leaving the RCMP, all those kind of things that I think the majority probably do not actually support.
Okay.
So,
well, there was, you know, they did the Alberta Next thing, right? They had this panel that toured all across the province.
Yep.
And people could go and they could voice their opinion, whether they were for an Alberta pension plan or against an Alberta pension plan, or for an Alberta provincial police force or against a provincial police force. Don't you think that was kind of the democratic way to do it? Hear from the people, issue a report, or do you think it was kind of stacked? Some people think it was stacked. You think it was stacked.
And the other thing is they weren't even listening to it. Like the report that came out said that the majority, and the polls say the majority of people do not support those things, yet they're still pushing forward because it's their agenda. So I just don't. I think
Thank you, Christy. You've got us off to a start. I've got to wrap it up there, though. I want to take another call. Not a fan of Premier Smith. Troy in Kitchener, Ontario. Hello, Troy.
Hey, how you doing, Rob?
Very good, Troy. Thanks. What's on your mind?
Well, first of all, I got one for your playlist to play you into your show or whatever. A song called First Time Caller by The White Lies. I don't know whether or not you'd enjoy it, but it's just kind of good with the theme with the show. So I just thought I'd throw that in there.
All right. I'll look it up, and maybe it'll be part of my Spotify evening tonight.
Okay, sounds good. First of all, go to the weather. I can't believe that I've already had to rake my roof off.
Really?
I don't know where you're at physically, but like I'm in Kitchener, and we just had 2 weeks ago, there was no snow. and now there's just it's like a winter full of snow already. It's wild. After last
We've
year,
had snow here for a month. We've had snow here for a month. Now, I haven't had to use my roof rake yet, but we probably even just the other day got about 15 centimeters. The snow that is on the ground here now is going to be here till April. Like, we have lots of snow. Yeah.
There's no question. Like we're done. Thank the Lord that we're still alive despite all this. We'll go sports next. I like the Seahawks. I'm a big Hawks fan. I don't know if you've been following. The only problem I've got is we've got a quarterback who can win us games, and we got a quarterback that can lose us key games. So with Sam Darnold. So I mean, I don't know how into NFL you are, but that's my take.
I'm pretty big into the NFL, but I don't really follow the Seahawks. It's not really a team I watch very often. I am a Denver Broncos fan, and I have been since I was a child, since the John Elway days, number 7 for the Denver Broncos. So I'm very happy with where the Broncos are right now. Best team in the AFC right now. I mean, there's still a few weeks left in the season. They've got some tough opponents, and I mean, it's amazing to me that the odds makers never give this Denver Broncos team any respect. There they are this weekend. They're playing at home in Denver at Mile High, and yet for some reason, even though they have the best record in the National Football League, they're the underdog to the Green Bay Packers. Make it make sense for me. It's been like that for them all season. Thanks for your call. Be right back. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Emerson in Calgary is up next on Talkback, the Friday free-for-all. Hi, Emerson.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. Nice to hear from you. I just wanted to say I've been following the extradition bail hearing for that Brampton, Ontario lawyer that's representing Ryan Wedding and allegedly counseling him to commit murder and kill a witness so that he could beat federal charges in the States. I found it a little bit ridiculous that his wife would take the stand and say, you know what, my husband needs to get out of jail. He doesn't feel comfortable there. He hates the food. There's always riots. He can't sleep. We sometimes go days where we can't visit him. What does that have to do with seeking bail? The whole argument of bail is he a flight risk? She says she's prepared to post $5 million. But at the end of the day, what I think the government of the United States is looking for, Pam Bondi, she's hoping this guy will flip and tell him where Wedding's hiding in Mexico, because obviously this lawyer, if he is representing Wedding, must know where the guy is staying. Now, the risk to that is Wedding had innocent people killed in Caledon East in Ontario. They were mistaken that they had something to do with some drug deal. So I don't think this guy is going to see the daylight. Honestly, if he gets bail, I don't care how many millions he posts. I don't think that'll be enough to keep this guy grounded. And on top of that, the things that the Crown introduced as exhibits, saying he's a cocaine lawyer, nobody beats him, he knows how to beat the justice system. I mean, I don't know how this guy got his law degree, but I certainly hope he doesn't get bail, because if he does, the justice system will be a big joke in Canada. I doubt he'll get it, because there's already been some remarks from the bench that he's gonna have to do a lot more to satisfy him that he wouldn't get on a plane and take off. I don't care, GPS and whatever.
Let me just because you've been following it very closely. Let me ask you what you think of what you're hearing from the judge in this case. Justice Bodden has mentioned, I guess, during the testimony that's been happening at this bail hearing. He said, I can understand this Wedding guy is a young, able-bodied guy, former Olympian. Be easier for him to be a fugitive than this 62-year-old with diabetes who's had a quadruple bypass. sooner or later, a 62-year-old, quote, who's a diabetic, has all kinds of cardiac conditions, is going to have to go to a hospital. What is the likelihood that he's going to be able to remain a fugitive? That's what the judge has been asking. And the prosecution said, Your Honor, the world is his oyster. He's got all of these assets. He's able to live wherever he wants. That's what
And he can pay doctors privately to deal with it without disclosing his identity. And I honestly, I don't think it'll happen, because at the end of the day, there's already precedent set. There's already precedent set that usually 99.9% of people who are apprehended and they face extradition to the States, they end up going there. There's only been one person who ever saw bail, and that was because there was an identification issue, which turned out to be they had the wrong guy. And so this is a very, very strong case. Listen, the Americans don't go and ask for extradition, destroy the guy's criminal defense practice, destroy his credibility, destroy his family and everything if they don't have a strong case. They've got him over a barrel. And I just think that it's about time the Americans say, okay, bring him back and let's see if he'll flip and tell us where this guy is. Because the guy's a dangerous man, this Ryan Wedding. He's having people killed all the time. And I'll tell you something before I go. I think one of the things that this lawyer better be careful of is if he does get bail, that he's not next on the hit list, because if Wedding thinks he's going to flip, he'll take out him and maybe the family. If I was the family, I'd be scared. Because, this guy will stop.
Who knows? Maybe jail in Canada be the safest place for him. All right. Well, okay. Thank you, Emerson. Yeah. Thank you. Matthew, up next. Matthew. Hi, Matthew.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, very good, Matthew. What's on your mind?
Well, first off, I'd like to say with that Christy from Calgary there, I totally agree with what she had to say.
Okay.
Government that we have here in Alberta, I don't understand their logic in why they are doing a lot of the things they're doing. They're just ignoring polls. Like it's disgusting. I can't wait for the next election and that kind of also leads me into why I'm calling in the first place, is all these people crossing the floor and going to another party. I don't understand how that's even legal. Like, me personally, when I make my vote, I vote for that person because of the party that they are in. So if they leave that party, they shouldn't be allowed to join another party. I understand that they can, and I understand that they should be allowed to, but they shouldn't be allowed to until they are voted in again. Until they're playing for votes again. You know what I mean? They should. If they want to leave the party, fine. Sit as an independent. But don't say I voted for a conservative, and now they're a liberal. No, how is that possible?
Well, it's amazing. I mean, I guess it all depends. I mean, he says, well, it's because of leadership, and I just have more confidence in Mr. Carney's leadership, but we don't know what carrots have been dangled. I mean, there's probably going to be a cabinet shuffle before the new year or early into the new year, just before the House of Commons gets back. Has he been promised? If you're going to cabinet, I mean, it's $100,000 raise. You get a driver, you get a nice office in Ottawa, you get a staff, the whole thing. Has he been promised more resources for his Markham Unionville riding? Hey, we'll give you a new, whatever, Chinese Canadian community center or something like that. We don't know. Or is it purely just because he thinks, Carney is the better man for the job? Who knows? I don't know. All to be revealed. And it's not just him, of course. Chris D'Entremont in Nova Scotia as well. The question is there one more out there or two more out there? And is this a government that is headed to a majority government, a majority that it was denied by the voters on April 28th in the general election? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We are buying some jets. The federal government has just announced we're buying jets. Are they the F-35s? No. Are they the Gripens? No. From Sweden? No. We are buying 6 Global 6500 jets from Bombardier. Those are the jets. They look like private jets, very, very swanky private jets. And those are the jets that fly around the VIPs, like the Prime Minister and the Governor General. And they're going to replace the remaining aged Challenger aircraft. So half dozen, $753 million. So a very nice contract for Bombardier for the Global 6500. That is just hitting the news wires now. Sandra in Calgary. Hi, Sandra. Thanks for calling. You're up next.
Hi, Rob.
Hi.
Hi. I'm just wondering, I'm hoping you can help me make sense of this. I don't understand why the 14 people that were charged for extortion in BC and were going to be deported are now claiming refugee status.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
So what happens then? Do they just are free on bail or wherever, and then they can have all the benefits of being a refugee status claimant? And how long will that take? I just can't help, that people are starting to game this system, and I just feel defeated.
Yeah, it's a remarkable story to me. I didn't even know you were allowed to do that. Like, how can you claim refugee status if you're facing serious criminal charges in this country? It just doesn't seem right to me.
I don't understand it. Is this going to open the floodgates for everybody that's charged with the crime? Anyways, that's just my thought.
Yeah, it's a great point that you raised. Yeah.
Anyways,
pretty defeated.
That's all I have to say.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's a very interesting point that you raised. Thank you so much. We'll stop here. And then we'll be in the home stretch of the Talkback, but lots of time to fit you in. Friday, free for all today. So start a conversation of your own if you want to. At 1-833-668-2577. The latest breaking news coming up next on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
I just want to put one bug in your ear just before we end this week of Talkback, because I really do feel that if I don't get this out there into the English media ecosystem, you're really missing a big story. This is a story that's been all over the Quebec news media. The English media, for some reason, hasn't picked up on it yet, even though it's very important. There have been a series of news stories this week in Journal de Montréal about safety in the trucking industry. It's big news in Quebec. I don't know if the English media is afraid to pick up the story or what, but there are serious issues at play. The most important issue is road safety. And whether we're putting people behind the wheel of very large trucks who have no idea what they're doing. Another issue is the gig economy and whether some of these workers for these trucking companies are being exploited by trucking companies. Another issue is illicit lobbying, potentially all the way to the Prime Minister's office, potentially. So in French, it's being reported as Chauffeurs Inc. In English, Drivers Inc. And this is what the journalists at Journal de Montréal have been digging into. There's a guy, his name is Tejpreet Dulat, described as a liberal donor close to the Prime Minister and dozens of other liberal MPs and cabinet ministers, and he worked on Mark Carney's leadership campaign. According to Journal de Montréal, this guy has been hired by something called the Canada Truck Operators Association. Canada Truck Operators Association, CTOA, as a lobbyist, and he's been promoting a business model for the trucking industry called Drivers Inc., which he is kind of pitching as Uber for big rigs. So according to the newspaper, these truck drivers, most of them are young six. They're encouraged to work for themselves, to be gig workers, like Uber drivers. They're encouraged to incorporate. And the pitch is, work for yourself. You have flexible hours and all the things they say about being an Uber driver. But it turns out, upon further investigation, most of these truck drivers actually work for one company. all the time. They are de facto employees of the trucking companies. But because of this business model where they're kind of self-employed, it's great for the trucking companies. They don't have to pay minimum wages. They don't have to pay benefits. They don't have to contribute to pension plans, make EI contributions, make contributions to workplace compensation, workers' compensation. Awesome for the companies, saving them a ton of money on operating expenses. And it's apparently become very popular, particularly in the Brampton area. The suspicion is, however, it's allowing a ton of poorly trained truck drivers to get behind the wheel, and it's compromising road safety, and it's leading to accidents. And the Americans have noted this, and they want the Canadian government. They've told the Canadian government, you need to crack down on this Uber for truck drivers, Drivers Inc. This individual named in the news reports, Tejpreet Dulat. So it's his job now as a lobbyist for this trucking organization to try and keep this business model going. And he has the ear of all of these politicians. He's been pushing for this business model to be allowed, even though the Americans say it should be ended. The Quebec government doesn't want anything to do with this. And according to the Bloc Québécois, which is the only party in Ottawa which is even paying attention to this, is calling for an investigation because this guy's not even a registered lobbyist, and that's against the law. If you're going to lobby politicians, you have to be a registered lobbyist. So the public knows who's trying to do the arm twisting in Ottawa. I'm telling you, it's a heck of a story. I don't know why it's not in the English news media. We have a political party that's calling for a formal investigation into this, called a toxic business model. You have business ties here, politics, potential illicit lobbying, pressure from the Trump administration, clearly diaspora politics, poorly trained drivers behind the wheels of transport trucks all across Canada and the United States. I don't know if anybody knows anything about this Uber for truck drivers, Drivers Inc. Just how widespread that is in the trucking industry right now. You watch that story. Really interesting story. Didn't get any play in the national media at all. Jody's up next in Calgary. Thanks for waiting, Jody.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Jody. Yeah, good to hear from you. Thanks for waiting. Go ahead. What's on your mind?
On a fun note here, I want to say that that as of right now, it's the way it goes. Colorado's going to be the team to beat, man. Like, I mean, they look awesome in hockey, and for football, for NFL, I'm pulling for the Buffalo Bills. I hope they can finally grab a Super Bowl, man. Like, I'm really pulling for them all the way, man.
Yeah, they're a fun team to watch too, especially when it's snowing in Buffalo.
Plus they're like right next to Canada. It's like, so like to me, they're like the Canada's team.
Okay.
I just want to say the story talk about the story here coming out of Saskatchewan where that lady was trying to get an operation, but she couldn't afford it or something, and so Glenn.
There were no doctors to do it. There were no doctors to do it.
Yeah. So they offered her maid. Like that is.
Yeah.
Like that is totally disgusting. I mean, this is Canada, man. Like we have. This is a rich country here. Like, so now we have Glenn Beck offering to bring her to the United States and to do the surgery. Like, why can't somebody in Canada, like why can't the Canadian government say, you know what, we're going to take care of this? Like we send money to all these countries, billions and millions of dollars for all this BS research and blah blah blah, and this poor lady's suffering. And they offer her maid, I just can't comprehend what's going on in this country right now. Like, I really can't.
I appreciate the sentiment. It's a heck of a story as well, that one. 9 years she's been like that, in misery like that.
It's just disgusting. It's disgusting. Like so what? So are they gonna offer maid for everybody now that has a little, for everything? Like, I mean, it's crazy.
Okay. All right, Jody. Thank you for waiting. Be right back. It's Talkback, Friday free-for-all Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. Lots of time to take your call today. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now Hello. 1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yeah, it sure is. Friday free for all. Talk back to Southern Alberta. Linda in Southern Alberta. Hello, Linda.
Hello. I try to
what's
keep
on
it
your
short.
mind today? Go ahead.
I know. With the crossing of the floor, I would just like to see if somebody could start a petition where we could put through for a referendum or something that says you can no longer cross the floor. If you're not happy, you could sit as an independent, or if you cross the floor, you're triggering a by-election right away. Because I know Carney said when he first got in, I just need like four more seats, 4 more people, right? So
yeah,
I don't like the way the optics of that at all. And when you're talking about the trucker thing, I know in Alberta there's some investigations going on because they're closing some trucking offices. So I'm not sure whether it's the same or whether it's a different. But yeah, so that's my opinion on those two things. So
very good. Well, you have a great weekend, Linda. Good to hear your voice again. Let's go to Kitchener. Back to Kitchener we go. Tony's in Kitchener. Hi, Tony.
Hey, Rob. How are you today?
Yeah, very good, Tony. What's on your mind?
Good. Actually, it's more of a question. Maybe you can help me out, or your listeners can. In regards to the crossing of the floor, has any member that's crossed the floor when it came to re-election, did they get re-elected under the party that they crossed over to, or were they defeated? Or does anybody know the answer to that for how many people have actually switched parties and then survived in the next election? I'm just curious to find out.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look it up. I mean, it's happened. I think, I can't remember what the figure was when Don Tremont crossed the floor. They said it's happened something like 150 times in Canadian history.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, this is not a rare event.
No, I just wonder if they actually get, when it comes time for re-election, if they actually get re-elected under the banner or the party that they crossed over to. I mean, I agree with your last caller. I mean, I think it's completely wrong that, people voted for a specific person for a specific party, and now they've crossed over. I mean, you're lied to, really. I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, there should be just trigger a by-election. Simple as that.
Should be. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. And it sucks when it, happens against you. And look, when Stephen Harper was prime minister, he lured David Emerson from the Liberals to cross the floor because he wanted to make sure he had a competent person he could put in cabinet from British Columbia. So he lured him across the floor and made him a cabinet minister, right? And they're the same howls of outrage, and David Emerson was the traitor of the day.
Yeah, you know what? At the end of the day, I just feel that, whether it's red or blue, it makes no difference to me. It's just people voted. If it's all about democracy, people voted for a particular person, a particular party, and halfway through they change their mind. And that's fine. They have the right to change their mind, but go back to the voters, the people that put you into that place, see if they still agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess what's so distasteful about this particular one is, it's not even halfway through. Like, it's not even, what has it been, like 6 months or 7 months or something like that? Yeah. Oh, sorry, and this was the first time he ran as a conservative. And they're putting all these videos up on social media. Like, the guy last week is slamming the Liberals, and they're, what a terrible job they're doing. It's incredible.
It just goes to show the hypocrisy of politicians. I mean, can you and then they say, why don't we trust politicians? Well, we don't trust them because of instances like this. I mean, stand behind what you ran for. That's all I got.
True enough. So, that is the corrosive effect of something like this. Is what it does to the whole trust in institutions.
Absolutely.
Very good.
There is no trust anymore. Yeah. Thanks very much, Rob. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Tony. Yeah, you too. Let's go to Zach is in Calgary. Hi, Zach.
Hi, Rob. Merry Christmas, sir.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you as well. Yeah. What's on your mind?
Yeah, you brought up the trucking industry right now kind of terrifies me. Having my young family wiped out due to an unqualified driver is definitely a fear of mine. The question I had for you, for a smart political thinker such as yourself, it's actually something I'd love to hear answered. from callers in Eastern Canada. So feel free to steal this in a future talkback if you want. But here's the hypothetical. Okay, so it's the current year. Everything politically and socially is relatively the same except for one thing. Alberta did not join Confederation in 1905. Alberta's been an independent state, has trade agreements between the U.S. and Canada, no Bad 9 laws, resource control, et cetera, et cetera. The question is always framed the opposite way when it comes to independence. But my question to you is, if Canada extended the offer to join Confederation right now, do you think the nation of Alberta would take it?
No. No, but that's a good way to frame it, though. I may keep that in mind. I'll have to do some thinking about that over the weekend. That's a great way to look at it. I think the answer would be no. Right?
I just wanted to hear you say it, but I'd love to hear what people in Eastern Canada say, our brothers and sisters on the other side.
Okay. Thank you for your call, Zach. Be right back with maybe some closing comments on Talkback for this week. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The Globe and Mail, I could end the week on this. The Globe and Mail had a very important story this week. Didn't really get the attention that it deserved. There's a major projects office in Calgary. They're staffing that up now. They're hiring people for that. And as part of that process, they've been going to the big firms on Bay Street in Toronto, the big banks, the investment houses in Toronto and the like, and they've been trying to poach employees. But one of the problems, according to the report, is the major projects office is government work, and they just can't match the salaries that these people make, in the financial heartland in Toronto, where people are making really good money. So according to the Globe and Mail, the government has been asking these investment firms, can you top up the salaries of any people we poach from you or borrow from you? I guess the official term is second. Like, I'm not kidding. I read that and I thought, that is totally unethical. I mean, it's totally unethical. You think you're just asking for all sorts of potential conflicts of interest. The headline of the story was Major Projects Office rankles Bay Street with recruitment compensation demands for junior staff. Listen to this. The Major Projects Office has asked private sector sponsors to consider topping up the pay for the employees that they loan to the government. Although financial arrangements of this sort can make sense on paper, a vice president from investment banking, for instance, will likely be out hundreds of thousands of dollars a year working for the government relative to their current job. Having a company top up the pay of a government employee is an ethical quagmire. No kidding. It goes on. Quote, it is proving easier to find retired or late career bankers, corporate lawyers, and executives. Many are already wealthy and happy to give back. Hiring junior and mid-career staff is a much different game, sources say. To start, younger hires are at a different point in their lives. They risk falling off internal promotion tracks. Because they would be lent to the government, their jobs would likely be guaranteed when they finish with the Major Projects Office, but they would have to return to their old roles, and Canadian companies have not historically valued government experience when promoting. Younger staff may also be saving for their first homes or paying $3,500 a month in rent in downtown Toronto. And this is where it gets really, really interesting and not so good. The government has asked companies to consider topping up pay while their employers work at the Major Projects Office. However, that can be an ethical minefield. Banks that second their staff may end up advising on the very deals the Major Projects Office is working on. And energy and mining companies who lend employees may develop the projects that are being considered by the Major Projects Office. Because the issue is so fraught, some companies are thinking through different ways to compensate the employees they loan, other than direct top-ups, according to sources. One idea being batted around is having the seconded employees earn government rates with the MPO, then offering outsized bonuses when they return. I don't like any of this. The government has this major projects office. It's in charge of, say, approving a mine somewhere. It goes to a big firm on Bay Street that has deep roots in the mining sector, does deals on Bay Street in the mining sector, raises money, does IPOs, that kind of stuff. And there are junior staff there. They want to climb the Bay Street corporate ladder. The government is asking these companies to let those staff come work for the government at government rates. And whatever the employee misses out on, because the firm's pay is so much higher, these firms are being pressured to come up with ways to make up the difference. No. No, these firms aren't charities. This is Bay Street, for crying out loud. This is capitalism. These firms aren't going to do this for free. They're going to want something in return for topping up the pay of these employees that they've loaned to the government. Surely to goodness, this can't be allowed. What a heck of a story that was. And a heck of a week of big news stories. Enjoy your weekend. We're back on Monday. This is News Radio.